Oldham Borough comprises the town of Oldham itself, along with Saddleworth, Shaw and Crompton, Chadderton, Failsworth, Lees and Royton. The Oldham Coliseum on Fairbottom Street first lit up in 1887 as a music hall turned theatre, a beacon in the town's industrial art. Built during Oldham's cotton mill heyday, its red brick facade and plush auditorium welcomed Victorian crowds with melodramas, pantomimes and travelling acts. A Grade 2 listed gem, it weathered 2 world wars and economic shifts, hosting stars like Chaplin and Thora Hurd in its days. Closing its doors in 2023 after funding cuts, it awaits a new venue nearby. Oldham Coliseum Theatre, the most prominent ghost is Harold Norman, an actor who accidentally stabbed whilst performing the Scottish play in 1947. It's believed that he refused to call the play the Scottish play and insisted on using Shakespeare's original M word. He is said to appear on Thursdays, the day that he was wounded, causing icy cold sensations and playing tricks with seats and equipment. Some staff members have seen shadows and orbs on the stage late at night. Chairs have been said to move and strange moans and groans echo across the empty theatre. Some even say that they have heard the M word whispered in their ear. The singing seamstress, a 1900s actress, who met a fiery end mid-performance, her costume igniting from a faulty gaslight during a packed house. A soft lullaby, a mournful thread of her last song from the wings on a quiet night, and a scorched scent wafts through the air, unsettling late-night staff. Visitors swear they've felt a warm brush against their arms backstage, as if she's still sewing her next costume. Another story is of the Clapping Ghost, a jovial fan who passed in 1925. Amid applause for raucous comedy, his heart giving out from laughter. His low and hearty claps echo through the empty stalls and seeks creak as if he's still revelling in the punchline. Actors report sudden cheer lifting their spirits during rehearsals. It's also believed to be haunted by a young boy called Tom, a photo of whom appeared in the Manchester Evening News this February. Other spirits include a troupe of cowboys from Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, who camped on Kersal Moor for many years, with some settling in Manchester. At Old Central Library, Mary Clark is believed to haunt the shelves, searching for her lover whom she met in the library and died in World War I. Librarians have reported hearing tapping sounds like footsteps walking along the aisles. Oldham Leisure Centre worked there, and loads of sightings upstairs, and they played bulls, and for the lifeguard training. George Street Chapel was visited by Wesley. A young lady who was a member of the congregation fell in love with a non-Methodist. After finally gaining permission to marry, she was jilted. But a spirit is spotted looking for a groom. The old museum on Greve Street, the building is reportedly haunted by a grey lady, or grey mist, and a Victorian boy. The grey lady is frequently spotted at the top of the stairs and described as walking through a grey, cold mist. The Victorian boy is found near the fire escape in the basement. He's known for moving things, especially a stool, which he always returns to a special place. Also, the basement is something called the Devil's Fireplace, from which the smell of fire emanates. Whilst on Greve Street, at positive steps at the side of the old swimming pool, where a man had been seen wandering around the edge of the pool. It's also said to be where 2 ley lines intersect. The old post or telegraph office, now a local studies library, which is subject to moving objects and electrical abnormalities. Oldham Parish Church despite being paved by gravestones, does not contain the actual bodies, which were originally at St Mary's, which was demolished for Spindle's shopping centre. Nevertheless, the original graves of the parish church bones are said to rise to the ground during heavy rain. Church Lane is widely associated with the plague, and where buried at St Mary's, people have reported hearing children singing Ring a Ring of Roses. George Square is where Oldham's red light district was. There was a spate of brutal murders in the area, and locals believe that the murderer was a local priest who was supposedly offering comfort to the women. Jackson's Pit is where Oldham's waste used to flow, to what is known as Pooh Pond. It was therefore where Oldham's docking stool was located. The Gaumont, or Grand Theatre, hosted Crazy Fields and the Beatles. CCTV showed unusual activity, and a guard was sent to investigate. He found nothing, but died shortly afterwards. Later on the CCTV camera, the dead guard was spotted. Later, the new security guard who saw this also died. Now Riley's snooker hall with Butterfly's nightclub in the basement. I saw the disembodied face of a young man who was just above the speaker that was suspended from the ceiling. It was totally unexpected, yet I was suddenly really excited. He seemed to be in his 20s, he had spiky blonde hair and a cheeky grin on his face. I'd certainly never expected to see an actual floating apparition, especially so soon in the night. I saw his image only for a few seconds, but he knew that I'd seen him. Butterfly's nightclub was haunted by a gentleman called George from the 1990s. The Emperor Theatre had a stage that was below ground level. A group of children were playing in a derelict house on Waterloo Street at Loddick, next to the theatre, when the children fell to their deaths in a hole which emerged. They were impaled on railings and could be heard screaming to this day. Kingsbridge Road, Loddick, residents have reported a mother grieving for her children and a mischievous poltergeist that throws small items and turns off electronics. Alexandra Park, a ghostly lady, reportedly an 1800s widow, is said to wander near the boating lake, accompanied by the sound of creaking benches. 89 Queen's Road, facing Alexandra Park. We lived there from 72 to 85. Every member of the family witnessed strange goings on. The previous residents held an exorcism, and the mum of the family that bought it from us wouldn't stay in alone. My brother and my friend used to play on the fields at Hume Grammar School in Oldham. They saw what appeared to be the image of a man walking across the field. The caretaker confirmed that was one of the ghosts in the school. Reports of screaming have been documented at Wrigley Head, locally known as White Stuff, near Moston Brook. Some local accounts and paranormal groups have investigated claims of activity in older areas of Failsworth, which is located within a historically active area for folklore. Birchen Bower site is haunted by the headless ghost of Madame Hannah Beswick, 1688 to 1758, famously known as the Manchester Mummy. After witnessing a relative nearly being buried alive, Hannah developed an intense fear of the same fate. She left her fortune to a doctor with the condition that her body be kept above ground and checked for signs of life daily. Her body was embalmed kept at Birchen Bower, her family home in Chadderton, for over 100 years. Locals reported seeing the woman in a black silk gown and white cap believed to be Hannah wandering the grounds of Birch Bower, looking for her buried gold. The house was eventually demolished and her body was buried in 1868. Chadderton Cutthroat Alley to this day is a narrow, crooked alley with blind corners and 10-foot walls either side. Gorse Mill, Chadderton, has seen reports of unknown ghost type near the lift shaft of the former textile mill. Help the Strugglers pub, now closed, was once run by the famous executioner Albert Pierpoint. In the Radcliffe Arms, a lonely chap who died in the cellar and frequently seen sitting at the bar with a pint. The Old Boar's Head in Middleton is said to be very haunted. At Old Edge Lane there are remnants of old farmhouses and industrial, often cited as desolate, atmospheric area which is probably haunted. Henshaw Street is where a woman in black can be seen, shouting obscenities, some even being kicked by her. She's believed to have been a witch that lived on the street. I attended the Bluecoat School, left in 1986, and saw some very strange things. One night we had a sort of school evening thing. Can't recall what it was, near Christmas time. And me and a couple of others went to walkabout down the main corridor and into the big entrance hall, near the main doors. They went back as if it was dark, and they were feared. On the big sweeping staircase took you up to the science labs, and the attic doors that led to an old disused dorms from long ago. I saw a woman in a long black dress and a white type front garment that seemed to be tied behind her back. Long dark hair, and she glided down the staircase and after a few seconds was gone. Seen many things in my life in Shore, Oldham, and places I worked at, including the old Littlewood Mills in Shore. I often think that the woman at Bluecoat and who she might have been. Another old Bull's Head in High Crompton. Things are moved across tables. Orbs fly, and unknown characters appear in modern photographs. All spooky and unexplained. Church Street, Leeds, is an original medieval road and the site of a terrible accident. Two horses and carts were moving towards each other, but one became frightened and bolted, causing a fatal accident. The sound of the horse galloping and human screams can still be heard at night. The old original at Scouthead is reputedly haunted by Eliza Jane, a former customer who was found drowned in a nearby well. Victorian writer John Hickson documented many boggarts and superstitions unique to the Saddleworth area. His supernatural sketches, which were published in local newspapers and in 2 books, gave a fascinating insight into their lives, fears and preoccupations of Victorian Mancunians. The Saddleworth fairies were found, not surprisingly, on the hill above Greenfield, the valley with the most pre-20th century fairies. These included Roropina, the last fairy of Saddleworth. Hickson claimed that the fairies decamped several years before his arrival. Hickson, originally of Gorton, came to Lees in his 40s and died there, alas, before his time. The most haunted road in the village was Church Street, formerly known as suggestive name Sorcery Lane. It was a short street but had 2 different terrifying spirits. One of the old dwellings acquired the name of Boggart's House in consequence of it being haunted by a hobgoblin having an appearance of a calf, some said with a cap on its head and others with a thrill around its neck. A woman, meanwhile, in the same street, had murdered 2 children in her cellar and the restless ghosts of these poor children fitted up and down the road. Upper Mill, nestled in the valley of Saddleworth, harbours secrets beneath its quaint exterior, including the girl on the viaduct, Rita. A well-known local legend tells of Rita, who died after falling from the Upper Mill viaduct and is said to haunt the area to this day. The ghostly policeman is reported to be seen near the village duck pond, where he is said to rescue children long after his own death. A mysterious little boy in blue vanished at the railway station in 1902. A signalman called Rutter was hit and killed by a train in the tunnel in Upper Mill Station. A totally bizarre story concerns the findings of a headless body dressed as a sailor between Saddleworth and Stalybridge Station. If a headless sailor wasn't strange enough, the incident seemed to involve a motley collection of suspects, described as an American, a German, and a woman, who all swore that the sailor just jumped out of the window. From witness statements in other carriages, it did seem that he didn't bother to open it first, and they all reported the sound of breaking glass. The Saddleworth Museum houses a Victorian cot that had reportedly terrified a teacher who once borrowed it. Saddleworth Moor is known for extraterrestrial sightings, including a hexagonal patterned UFO in 2006 and a bus-sized craft in 1975. A Roman legion is said to be seen by walkers on Bleak Moor, victims of an ambush by British tribes, their bodies still preserved as mummies in the area's famous peat, waiting to be discovered. In 1832, at the Moorcock Inn, the ruins of which remains visible from Dovestone's reservoir, William Bradbury and his son Thomas were beaten to death in an event so notorious within its era that you could buy an ornamental plate to commemorate it. In 1857, the MP for Oldham, James Platt, died near the reservoir after accidentally shooting himself with his own gun. In 1963, 2 climbers were taken by an avalanche in Chew Valley. At the lower head of the valley, at the place the locals call Indian's Head, a British European Airways DC-3, flying from Belfast to Manchester, crashed in fog in the month of August 1949. 12 people died. The frame and the landing gear remain there today. In 2015, an unidentified man, later identified as David Litton, was found dead on the track near Dovestone Reservoir. He boarded a plane in Lahore and travelled 4,000 miles to London, then made his way up to Manchester and was witnessed walking into the Clarence pub in Greenfield. He asked for directions to the top of the mountain, and a day later his body was found on the secluded moorland path. His mysterious final journey from London to the moors remains a point of local intrigue, and many claim he was an international spy, or perhaps a survivor from a plane crash in the area which killed 24 people in 1949. The Moors are irrevocably linked to the Moors murders of the 1960s, contributing to the area's reputation for being desolate and spooky. In his autobiography, singer Morrissey claimed to have seen a grey ghost while on the desolate Saddleworth moors. Not a Victorian ghost, but a boy of maybe 18, was totally grey with long hair in a 1970s style, which he ran out of the moors and into the path of the car, wearing a small anorak and nothing else, and desperately pleaded for cars to stop.